I've replayed that night 10,000 times. Not because I want to, because my brain won't let me stop. There's a number that stays with you when something like this happens. 4 minutes and 22 seconds. That's how long it took me to realize I had the wrong address. By then, the ambulance was already there. Just the wrong there. My name doesn't matter. What matters is what I did, and what I couldn't undo. I started in dispatch at 24 years old. I thought I understood pressure. I'd worked retail management. I'd handled angry customers. I'd taken a class. By 2017, I was good at this job. Really good. I'd logged over 4,000 calls. I'd talked a man off a bridge. I'd coached a 14-year-old through CPR on her grandmother while the paramedics were still 3 minutes out. Grandma survived. You build a certain confidence in this work. You earn it. You start to believe you know how to hold your voice steady when everything around you is collapsing. What they don't tell you in training, and what they can't really tell you, is that the job isn't just about staying calm. It's about being right every single time. A 911 dispatcher is not just a person on a phone. We're the first link in a chain that ends with a paramedic's hands on your chest, or a fire engine in front of your burning house, or a cop standing between you and whoever just kicked in your door. We process calls in under 60 seconds. We're pulling address, cross street, callback number, nature of emergency, medical history if there is one. We're typing while we're talking. We're routing while we're listening. We're asking follow-up questions while simultaneously noting a discrepancy in the address, while simultaneously wondering whether the person on the other end of the line is safe enough to keep the phone on. Picture a 911 dispatcher for a second. You're probably seeing someone who answers the phone and passes the call along. That's not it. That's not even close. On a good night, my floor had 8 of us handling calls for a metro area of just under 400,000 people. On a bad night, a holiday, or a storm, we had 4, sometimes 3. That math doesn't work. It never has. But that's the job, and I loved it. I genuinely did. I loved the pace. I loved knowing that what I did in those 45 seconds could change, whether someone's story ended tonight or continued into tomorrow. That feeling of being useful in the most direct, immediate, human way possible. I've never found it anywhere else. I want you to understand who I was before that night, because I think it matters. I wasn't careless. I wasn't distracted. I wasn't having a bad day. I was, by every objective measure, one of the best in that building. And I still sent help to the wrong address. That November was cold. We'd had 3 snowstorms in 6 weeks, and people were starting to slide into each other on the roads. Fender benders mostly, the occasional rollover. I'd come on at 11. My supervisor at the time, I'll call her Dana, had handed off a clean board. Nothing pending, nothing open. Just silence and an empty queue. The first hour of my shift was routine. A domestic disturbance on Maple, already resolved by the time I tagged it. A man who thought he was having a heart attack turned out to be acid reflux, which I know is funny in retrospect, and he actually laughed about it on the callback check. I was 45 minutes into hour 2 when it came in. Not a code red, not a shots fired call, not the kind of thing that makes your blood go cold the moment you hear it. A medical call. Unconscious female. Possible stroke. Caller was a man. I'll call him the caller because I never learned his name, or rather, I know the name on the report now. But somehow using it feels wrong. He wasn't a detail in a report to me that night. He was a husband. He was terrified. His wife had collapsed in the kitchen. She wasn't responsive. He was shaking so hard I could hear it in his breathing. I've had calls like this. I know what to do. I pulled up the address. He gave me a street number and a street name. I typed it as he said it. I confirmed it back to him. Or I thought I confirmed it. The street name sounded like a street I knew. There are 2 streets in that city with nearly identical names. One ends in Avenue, one ends in Road. I heard Avenue, he said Road. I dispatched the ambulance to the Avenue address, and they drove to a house where no one was sick. An elderly couple who came to the door confused, in their robes, while a man 22 blocks away watched his wife stop breathing on his kitchen floor. In emergency medicine, There's a number that everyone in this field knows. 4 minutes. I knew that number. I'd known it since week 2 of training. 4 minutes and 22 seconds was how long it took me to hear that the ambulance had arrived and found the wrong house, and then to pull up the call log, play back the recording, and understand what I had done. And I remember the exact moment. The paramedic on the radio was professional, calm. He said, "Dispatch, we're at the location, no patient. This appears to be an incorrect address. Can you confirm?" I confirmed. And then I felt everything I had built in 4 years, all the confidence, all the competence, all the times I had been the steady voice. I felt it just collapse. I rerouted immediately. I found the correct street. I got the ambulance redirected within 90 seconds of that paramedic's radio call. Those 90 seconds on top of the 4 minutes 22 gave me a total of roughly 6 minutes. She had been without oxygen for longer than her brain could handle. By the time the paramedics reached her, the real address, the right address, she was in cardiac arrest. Now, they worked on her for 19 minutes on the kitchen floor while her husband stood in the doorway of their own home watching strangers try to bring his wife back. She was transported. She reached the hospital. She survived. But the damage was significant. The doctors told her family that they couldn't know the full extent until she woke up, and that waking up was not a guarantee. She woke up, and she was different. That's the word her husband used when the report was completed. Different, not gone, but different. She had trouble with language, with memory, with certain kinds of tasks she had done her whole life without thinking. She was 53 years old. After it happened, an internal review was opened. I want to be fair to the process. It wasn't punitive. It was designed to understand what failed and why. Now, in our center, dispatchers were required to repeat back the full address, street number, street name, and suffix to the caller for confirmation before routing. The recording showed that I had repeated back, "We have you at number on street name." I had dropped the suffix. I had not said avenue or road. He had confirmed the repeat back because he heard the street name he had given me and assumed I understood. And I had assumed I understood too. That's the invisible part of this work. Two people can be in complete agreement, completely confident, and completely wrong. There's a concept in emergency communications called a readback error. It's when the confirmation loop fails, not because either party is careless, but because confirmation bias fills in the missing piece. I had been doing this job long enough that the street name alone activated the address in my mind. My brain auto-completed it. I typed what I was sure I had heard. The review found no negligence, no policy violation technically, because the policy said full address, and it was ambiguous on whether suffix was included in that definition. They updated the policy after my case. I find very little comfort in that. About 2 hours after I rerouted that ambulance, my supervisor came and told me to take 15. I went to the break room. I sat in front of the vending machine without feeding it anything. I just sat. And then, 48 minutes into what was supposed to be a 15-minute break, Dana came and found me. She didn't say anything for a minute. Then she said, "The board is backed up." I want you to think about what that means. Now, and the board was backed up. Other calls were coming in, other people needed help, other addresses needed to be confirmed. And I was the dispatcher who had just sent the ambulance to the wrong house. She wasn't being cruel. She was being real. The job doesn't stop because you're broken. I put my headset back on. I took 47 more calls before my shift ended at 7 in the morning. 47 more addresses. 47 more chances to be wrong. I repeated back avenue or road or street or drive or lane or court on every single call that night. My supervisor noted it in my log. She didn't say anything. I didn't sleep that day. A civil complaint was filed 4 months later. I was named. That's a matter of public record. The complaint alleged negligence. The city settled. I was not personally liable. Now, the attorney explained this to me several times in the patient way. Attorneys explain things they know their clients aren't really hearing. I heard the word settled and felt nothing in the direction of relief. I don't know the terms of the settlement. I'm not allowed to discuss specifics. What I can tell you is that I received a letter from the city's risk management office informing me that the matter had been resolved. That letter sat on my kitchen counter for 11 days before I moved it. I started seeing a therapist 8 weeks after the incident. Her name was Dr. Harmon. She specialized in first responder trauma, which is a real subspecialty, and one I had never needed before that winter. In our first session, she asked me to describe what I felt when I thought about that night. I said, like I failed the one test that mattered. She wrote that down. She asked me if I thought I was a bad dispatcher. I said no. She asked me why I still felt like one. I didn't have an answer. I still don't, really. That gap between what you know to be true and what you feel to be true, that's where the weight lives. I can tell you what I know to be true. I made a mistake that exists in a category that cannot be undone. There are mistakes you make and then fix. You say the wrong thing to a friend and you apologize. You file a report incorrectly and you correct it. The harm is real, but it is limited and it ends. And then there are mistakes where the correction comes too late, where by the time you understand what you've done, the consequence has already happened. The hour has passed. The damage is done. I know she's alive. I've known that since the week after the incident, when my supervisor told me the patient had survived. I've thought about her husband standing in that doorway more times than I can count. I've thought about what those 6 minutes meant in his life, in hers. I never reached out to them. My attorney advised against it during the civil proceeding. And after the settlement, I thought about it. I wrote 3 different letters. I threw them all away. What do you say? What do you say that fills in those 6 minutes? After the civil case was settled, several of my colleagues reached out to me. Some of them said, it wasn't your fault. Some of them said, it could have been any of us. Some of them said, the protocols failed, not you. I don't know what to do with any of that. I believe them when they say it. I believe they mean it genuinely. I believe that on some objective, policy level, institutional analysis of the event, they are probably right. But this part also needs to be said. I was the dispatcher who took that call. I was the one who typed that address. I was the one who confirmed a repeat back with a dropped suffix. Policy, protocol, supervisor, training gap. None of it changes the fact that my hands were on that keyboard. I'm not saying this to perform remorse. I'm not saying it to seem a certain way. I'm saying it because I think there's something dishonest in the way we talk about human error. This instinct to diffuse responsibility until it's so spread out that nobody has to carry it. I carry it. I want to carry it because she's still carrying what happened to her. I went back to dispatch work 14 months after the incident, not at the same center. I couldn't do that. But I took a position at a regional facility about 40 miles away. Different county, different call volume. Different, but the same. You put on the headset and the calls come in, and somewhere out there a person is scared and you are the first voice they hear. I say every suffix now, out loud. Street, avenue, road, drive, court, lane, place, boulevard, circle, way. My current supervisor asked me once why I was so particular about it. I told her it was just a habit. It's not a habit. I'm better at this job in some ways than I was before that night. Not because of the mistake. I want to be clear about that. I would give anything to have not made it. But because I know now, in a way I couldn't have known before, how fast a chain can break. How a 4-letter suffix becomes a woman's memory. How the difference between confidence and certainty is a gap you don't see until you've fallen through it. I still think about her. Not every day, but more than once a week, even now, even 3 years out. I'll be driving and I'll see a street sign, and I'll catch myself reading the whole thing. Number, name, suffix. There's something Dr. Harmon said to me in one of our later sessions. She said that the hardest thing for first responders who've experienced a traumatic error isn't guilt, it's ambiguity. She said, you'll never know who she would have been. I asked her what she meant. She said that the woman survived. She's living her life, and that life is real, and it's hers, and she's in it. But I'll never know what she was working toward before that night, what she was planning, what her language was like before it changed, who she was in the days and weeks that came after my mistake, while her brain was trying to rewire itself around the damage. I carry that not knowing. It's different from guilt. Guilt is clean almost. It has an object. It points at something specific. This is blurrier than that. I didn't tell you this story because I want sympathy. I told you this story because that cost is invisible. The cost of holding a job where being almost right is the same as being wrong. Doctors know this. Pilots know this. Air traffic controllers know this. Dispatchers know this. They just don't get invited to talk about it. There are people in this world who sit in windowless rooms in the middle of the night and try, with everything they have, to send the right help to the right place in under a minute. And sometimes they get it wrong, and they live with it. I don't know if she knows what happened that night. I don't know if her husband ever told her about the address. I don't know if she'd want to hear from me. I think about it. Every suffix. If this story stayed with you, the next one will too. It's on screen now.